What is time? It's a question that's so big, so fundamental, that we barely even think to ask it. We live our lives by it, right? We're always looking at the clock, planning our futures, remembering the past. But what if that constant forward march of time isn't what we think it is? Today, we're going to peel back the layers of reality and dive into one of the deepest mysteries in all of physics, the true nature of time itself. So, this is the big one. Is that feeling you have, that relentless ticking of moments passing by, a fundamental feature of the universe? Or is it possible that it's all just an elaborate illusion, something our own minds cook up? To even begin to untangle that, we have to start with what we know, or what we think we know from our everyday experience. So, our story kicks off in a world that feels totally familiar, a world governed by that relentless forward march of time. And this world, it's defined by one simple and what seems to be an unbreakable rule. I mean, just think about your day. You can scramble an egg, but you can't unscramble it, right? You can watch a drop of ink spread out in a glass of water, but you'll never see that cloudy mess just gather itself back into a perfect little drop. It's a one-way street, always moving from order to chaos. And that is our most basic gut-level proof that time has a direction. It only moves forward. Okay, let's make this visual. Picture a perfect, beautiful vase. This represents a system in a state of high order, or, as a physicist would say, low entropy. Every single molecule is exactly where it's supposed to be, creating this amazing, complex thing. And yet, we all know that perfect states are fragile. A single crack appears, and that's it. That's the first step on that inevitable journey from order to disorder. The decay has officially begun. And eventually, boom! It shatters into 1,000 pieces. This is a state of maximum disorder, high entropy. You see the principle now, right? The path from a whole vase to a shattered one is easy. It's irreversible. You will never see those pieces spontaneously fly back together. And that irreversible sequence, that's what we perceive as the arrow of time. So this whole idea has a name, entropy. It's basically a scientific measure of disorder. Think of it like a physical ledger, drawing a really clear line between a past that's already happened and a future that hasn't. The second law of thermodynamics is the rule book, and it's pretty absolute. In a closed system, like our universe, the total amount of disorder can only go up. This law is really the engine that gives time its direction. But, just when you think you've got a handle on something in physics, it throws you a massive curveball. So, Act 2 introduces us to a revolutionary idea from Albert Einstein that just completely shatters this simple universal view of time. For centuries, we were all on Team Newton. His idea was that time was like a single giant cosmic clock that ticked at the exact same rate for everyone, everywhere. It was absolute, unchanging. But then Einstein comes along and basically says, nope, not even close. He showed us that time is much more like a river. It flows through this four-dimensional landscape called space-time, and its current can actually speed up or slow down depending on where you are and how fast you're going. So how in the world does that work? Well, Einstein pointed to two main things that can warp this fabric of space-time. First, there's velocity. The faster you rocket through space, the slower you actually move through time compared to someone just standing still. And second, there's gravity. The more intense the gravity, like say near a black hole, the more time itself literally stretches and slows down to a crawl. The implication of this is it's absolutely mind-blowing. It means that the idea of a single, universal now that all of us share across the entire cosmos, it's an illusion. Your present moment is not the same as the present moment for an astronaut zipping past Jupiter, or for some life form in another galaxy. Time, it turns out, is fundamentally personal. Okay, so time is real, but it's flexible, it's kind of bendy. That seems manageable, I guess. But now we get to the real crisis of our story. So buckle up, because we're about to hit an even more radical idea. What if, at the most fundamental level of reality, time doesn't exist at all? This staggering idea actually comes from physicists trying to get relativity and quantum mechanics to play nicely together. When they tried to write a single master equation for the whole universe, something called the Wheeler-DeWitt equation, they found something really startling. When they solved it, the variable for time, t, had completely vanished. The math describes a universe that is, at its core, a static, timeless block. How can that be? How can we experience time so vividly if it isn't even real at the bottom of everything? Well, the best way to wrap your head around it is to think about a movie. A film reel is just a long strip of thousands of individual, static pictures, right? Each frame by itself is totally frozen. But when you run them through a projector at 24 frames per second, our brain connects the dots, and we perceive a smooth, continuous story full of life and motion. This leads to a pretty profound question, doesn't it? What if the universe is just like that film reel? A massive collection of static now moments, all of these frames existing at the same time. And what we call the flow of time is just the illusion that gets created as our consciousness moves through these frames, one after another. Okay, so if the universe is just a big collection of static frames, does that mean we can break the rules? Could we, in theory, edit the film, maybe jump between the frames? In this act, we're going to put that idea to the test and see how it holds up against the unbreakable laws of cause and effect. All right, let's run a classic thought experiment. Imagine you could send a text message back in time to your friend, just 1 minute into the past, to warn them about slipping on a banana peel. So your friend gets the message at 3:04 p.m. They're probably pretty confused, right? They pull out their phone to read your weird warning, and now their attention is completely locked on that screen. And here's the paradox. At exactly 3:05 p.m., because they were looking down at their phone, reading your warning, they don't see the banana peel on the sidewalk. And they slip on it. The very thing you did to try and change the past became the cause of the event you wanted to prevent. This story illustrates a really powerful concept, temporal inevitability. It seems like the timeline is just brutally self-correcting. Any attempt to create a paradox, any attempt to change events, it just gets absorbed and woven right back into the original fabric of cause and effect. It ensures that what happened, happened. Causality is still king. So where does all of this leave us? We've seen time as a one-way street of decay, as a flexible river that can bend, and even as a grand illusion. For our final act, let's try and bring all these threads together to see if we can form a new, more profound picture of reality. This table really synthesizes our entire journey pretty brilliantly. We have these three competing, but maybe compatible ideas. You've got thermodynamics, which gives time its forward arrow. You've got relativity, which describes it as this flexible geometric fabric. And then you have the emergent theory, which suggests the whole thing might be a perceptual trick, bubbling up from a deeper static reality. Now, when you combine these ideas, you arrive at a staggering possibility. The universe might be a fixed, four-dimensional block, where the past, the present, and the future all exist simultaneously. The story of reality, from the Big Bang all the way to its end, might already be written. And our consciousness, which is governed by the laws of entropy, is simply moving through it, experiencing it one moment, one page at a time. And all of this leaves us with one final provocative question to chew on. If the entire timeline of the universe already exists as a single, complete thing, does that make our choices, our free will, meaningless? Or does knowing that this moment, this single illuminated frame in the grand cosmic film, is our only window of experience, does that make it the most precious thing in the entire universe? That's something to think about.